family. So I wrote this poem a while back, and it goes, if this world were nothing more than a garden to be perceived, then indeed my people will be the weeds, the most prevalent, most tenacious, most beautiful seeds. Indeed, my people will be the weeds, underused, overused, and abused in the name of greed. Indeed, my people will be the weeds, dense with diverse life force, full of the world's nutritional needs. Indeed, my people will be the weeds, illuminators of the things unseen to those wise enough to read. Indeed, my people will be the weeds, often devalued as mere sources for beasts to feed. Indeed, my people will be the weeds. We get in where we fit in time, nature gives way for us to flourish and lead. Indeed, my people will be the weeds. Rejuvenation flows through our blood, word to the sap we bleed. Indeed, my people will be the weeds. And see the world healing simply from the presence of we. Yet understanding such a sight takes more than 2 eyes to see. Seriously, if this world were nothing more than a garden to be perceived, then indeed, my people would be the weeds. Peace world, I hope you enjoyed my poem. It definitely came from the heart, and it really did feel like it was necessary to bring up. So anyway, I want to talk about weeds so that maybe that poem can mean a little bit more to you. Maybe you can watch it again after I explain to you the concept of weeds. So weeds in general, that's a relative term, a relative concept. So weed is a plant in general that is not where the person in quote unquote control or in charge of a certain area of things that are growing, that person doesn't want that plant there. So for instance, if I had a tomato bed and a squash bed all on the same farm, and my goal as a farmer was to sell all the tomatoes and all the squash that I can sell, and to grow all the tomatoes and all the squash that I can sell. However, there's a squash plant in my tomato bed on the same farm, and then there's a tomato plant in my squash bed. Those plants that are not in the beds with the rest of their clone identical plant members are called weeds. So a weed can be literally any plant that the person that's planting that space doesn't want in that space. So now that we understand that the term weed is relative to somebody's perception and preference, we can start to look at weeds with less of a stereotype of a bad plant that might choke out and kill your good plants. Indeed, it all depends on what you're looking for, and it all depends on your perception. So another thing I want to say about weeds is there are a lot of edible weeds out there. There are probably, matter of fact, I am certain that there are more weeds that are edible and medicinal out there than there are normal things that we buy from the grocery store, the foods that we see in the grocery store. There are more choices of edible and medicinal weeds out there in our gardens than there are in the grocery store. I mean, there's everything from purslane to chickweed to galansoga to lamb's quarter to purple dead nettle to dandelion. So many different things out there that just grow wild, that are great for us, but that we overlook. And one of the reasons that we overlook a lot of the weeds are because weeds are not, I wouldn't even say they're hard, but in this society that we live in, it's hard to capitalize and make industry out of certain plants because you can't mass produce them in ways that you want. You can't harvest them as quick as you want, and you can't store them in a way that you would like. So for instance, a lot of our food that we eat in this society, a lot of our staple foods, we have broken it down into an industry, which means we have processed for everything I just said, up until the point where a fruit that may in general off the vine only lasts for 5 days, somehow we've gotten it to last for 2 to 3 weeks to get across the country so that it can feed somebody else. So taking all that into account, you can see why weeds are discriminated against. Weeds have a special power. They're superhuman plants. They're superhero plants. Why? Because in general, weeds come in where there has been damage done to the earth. And you can literally start to guesstimate what kind of damage was done to the earth based off of the type of weeds that appear and the climate that they appear in. see a lot of weeds on different weeds, but you see a lot of specific weeds on like roadsides and like hazardous areas, and you're like, why is this plant growing more than the other plants? Well, usually these plants have the power to absorb the hazardous materials, and they have the power to actually live amongst the hazardous materials. Now, that might not be good for us to necessarily go and eat and harvest, but the earth is doing this thing as far as rejuvenating itself, and the earth is on a time frame that's much more vast than ours. So it may take human lifetimes for that site to actually rejuvenate itself, but to the earth, that's a mere fraction of a second. So at the end of the day, when we look at weeds, we should look at them in a different way. Weeds get in anywhere. You'll see a weed growing through concrete. That is freaking awesome. And again, a weed could be any plant. It could be a giant tree, or it could be the smallest piece of grass. But a weed, again, is a plant that is somewhere where, quote unquote, humans didn't intend it to be. So anyway, back to weeds. Weeds are some of the most prolific, if not the most prolific, plants on the earth. And I say that because humans just call just about any plant a weed besides the plants that we actually use, which is a small, tiny fraction of the big, infinite number of possibilities of plants that we can use as far as for human life, the betterment of human life. So anyway, thinking about weeds again, weeds are often just degraded to something for cattle to feed on. They're degraded into something that takes over areas of the earth, and then we hear stuff like invasive weeds and weeds that weren't here before a certain group of people came here, and weeds that have traveled with people over the oceans and hair and all this different type of stuff. But we as humans are so small-minded that we forget that what part of the earth is not a plant's home. Think about it. The earth and all of its elements are engaged on a daily basis by every plant. Think about it. So when thinking about concepts like weeds, I like to call our people, indigenous people, weeds, because we are the ones that are the most prolific, we are the most diverse, we do the most earth work as far as healing and rejuvenation goes. And again, no matter how much we're looked at and abused and ripped up and taken out of one place of the earth, we'll always pop back even stronger and more prolific with our new generations. And that speaks very highly to the situation that indigenous people are in just across the world. The sun shines with us, and when I go outside and I see all these beautiful plants and all these beautiful examples of nature and these life lessons on how to root yourself and how to grow as a community of one and as a community of many, I see all this stuff and I am very appreciative. So again, when thinking about weeds, just think about the real concept behind weeds and how powerful weeds actually are. And anything can be a weed depending on your perception. So anyway, I've talked enough. Thanks for listening. I can always talk more, so back and forth Q&A would be cool if you have any.